Who is Atom Smasher really? Just a gameplay mechanic from the TTRPG? Just a boogeyman? One of the few people who seems to be pleased with his current career path? But really, what kind of person do you have to be to exist in the cyberpunk world and be totally okay with it? What kind of person do you have to be to just be okay with smashing people into red stains on the floor and the ceiling, so much so that it becomes your surname? You probably have to be quite the scary motherfucker. That's not an eloquent statement, no, but it's the most undeniable thing about Atom Smasher. Welcome to Shaped by Stories, where we unpack how characters shape stories, and how those stories shape us. Let's get into it. Born in New York City on June 21st, Atom Smasher was once just Adam something. Adam was raised in the bomb-damaged Bronx. His dad was an American, and his mother was Russian. We don't know the exact year of his birth, but it was definitely pre-collapse, so he was probably born sometime in the 1980s, maybe the 70s? So a lot of what we know of tabletop Atom Smasher comes from an article he himself wrote in the book Solo of Fortune 2. Which is funny because, okay then, Atom Smasher is a published author, good for him. So Adam had it pretty rough from the start. New York City was a pretty messed up place in terms of how, as Adam says, quote, "It was a city so nice they bombed it twice." Like many kids of his time, he was a member of a small-time gang, and he rose to become its leader during the years of the collapse. Adam was feared by his underlings, noted as ruthless and harsh, even before his borged-out days. And this was how he was able to hold on to power, such as it was. His start isn't actually all that dissimilar from Kurt Hansen, now that I think about it, though Kurt is definitely said to be a more cunning type rather than Smasher's sheer intimidation factor. But Adam's stint as a gang leader wasn't to last. The US Armed Forces, in their attempts to clean up New York during the collapse, flatlined every last punk in Smasher's gang, leaving Adam back at the hierarchical bottom. But you know what they say? If you can't beat 'em, join him. So that's exactly what Adam did, joining up with the army and eventually finding himself among the Marines for 6 years. Adam became quite the skilled combatant during this time, as well as a mountain of meat. He was 108 kilograms, translation, 240 pounds. And this was before he went full Chrome Dome. But of course, Adam was Adam, and he was discharged for, quote, insubordination. Whatever he did, we don't know, we can only imagine. And this led to him becoming a solo in his native New York.
You really are the most devious bastard in New York City.
As a merc, Adam did not discriminate. He would take on pretty much any job, no matter how bloody, ferocious, or horrific. The deadlier, the better. As the wiki says, quote, his lack of squeamishness and sadistic thoroughness brought in enough jobs to keep him in guns, gear, drugs, and brutal one-night stands. That last bit particularly frightens me. But in 2015, Adam got a job from Arasaka. A job that resulted in Adam getting smoked with 2 RPGs, Garrus Vicarian style, but Adam was not, in fact, the same kind of brick shithouse that Garrus is.
Oh, don't make me laugh. Damn it, my face is barely holding together as it is. Some women find facial scars attractive. Mind you, most of those women are Krogan.
His body was toast, and his brain was revived by Arasaka techs after being dead for over 8 minutes. All that was found of his organic body could fit inside a backpack. Adam was basically a tank baby at this point. He was only kept alive and aware of the world around him thanks to machines. If I'm picturing this right, I'm thinking of the brain from Old World Blues in Fallout New Vegas. But Arasaka only saw this as an opportunity. Perhaps they already knew of his immense potential for cyberware capacity. Perhaps they rigged the gig themselves as part of a twisted experiment so they could get their hands on him. There's a number of conspiracies out there that what happened to Atom Smasher isn't all that different from how Faraday set up David Martinez. Otherwise, Arasaka very conveniently came to Adam with a deal. Sign himself to Arasaka for the next 15 years, and get a top-of-the-line, full-body conversion. Adam, a brain in a tank, of course agreed. But as we all know, 15 years eventually became around 50-something. And as Adam says in Solo of Fortune 2, he, quote, didn't realize his bones and muscles were holding him back. He ravaged the solo scene of New York, taking out booster punks, powered armor, corporate hitmen, children, ground attack choppers, sword-wielding ninjas, and assorted breeds of cyber pets. Adam was in awe of his new power, and thus here began his mindset of metal over meat. Flesh was weak and it disgusted him. It was redundant. It should be eliminated in favor of the next phase of humanity, cold, hard metal, just like him. And he would happily take out all the meatheads around him, as he tended to call them, which would end up being most people. Adam wrote of his great strength and speed, as well as fortitude, describing one situation where he was thrown off a 9-story building by a grenade to the chest. He landed on the roof of a garbage truck and then sprinted back up the stairs to punch the head off the guy who'd nailed him in the first place. He talks about turning enemies into puree with his massive guns, killing people simply because he can, even when he doesn't need to. Adam would still continue to do his own solo work, but Arasaka was his top customer. But it says on the wiki that post-Borg transformation, having collateral damage and civilian casualties became a requirement for the gigs he would take. A requirement! All in all, he just seems to find it very amusing, or just slightly less than boring. By the sounds of it, this behavior was not abnormal before he had his full-body conversion, but who knows, it may have been amplified immensely after he was installed in his new body. Now, I'm not certain about when Adam Smasher got his Smasher name, but it was around this time, I'm pretty sure, that Adam became Adam Smasher. When you read the article that Adam wrote, you really do get to see how full-on vicious he is. He revels in carnage, and nobody is better suited to his state of existence and profession than he is. But he's also not just some completely dumb brute, a fact that makes him even scarier. He can follow orders, he can be relatively careful and strategic, he can be sneaky. As he says, he will switch his faceplate to stop people from recognizing him whenever he does a gig. This is what he does so he can anonymously mow down rows and rows of civilians whenever he's out on a gig in public. But his bosses know better than to misuse his strengths. For sure, Arasaka uses Adam Smasher to great effect. But, fun fact, Mike Pondsmith said that Adam Smasher enjoys watching anime in his spare time. I would like to think he would enjoy anime like Frieren. I love that show. He also, apparently, enjoys going out to the mall with his girlfriend. And imagine that, Adam Smasher holding your purse while you try on a new dress, or trying to sit in those dinky food court chairs, or trying to go up an escalator, but the escalator can barely hold him. Mike Pondsmith also said that Adam Smasher still has a partial digestive system, so rather than just existing on boring liquid nutrients fed to him through an IV, he can still eat cookies and chips and all the fun foods. It's so weird to look at Adam Smasher and then hear these more mundane day-to-day facts about him, because it's like, oh my god, he does normal things? I shouldn't be surprised, but I still am. It's just not an image I had in my head. Adam Smasher fought in the Fourth Corporate War, and he was really gunning for one guy in particular. Morgan Blackhand, the comparatively Gannic Night City legend. In the past, Adam had tried to goad Blackhand into a fight to the death, as this guy was the best of the best in NC. But Blackhand just said nah and ignored Smasher, which particularly bothered him. To Smasher, it was a matter of Borg versus Meathead. How could a meathead like Morgan Blackhand be potentially stronger, better than he was? It was an impossible pill to even think of swallowing. I should also note that while I'm not certain about this, Morgan Blackhand is from New York. It's said that he spent time there before moving to Night City as a solo, So maybe their rivalry goes all the way back to Adam Smasher's days as a more organic person. But Smasher finally got his chance to face Blackhand on the night of August 20th, 2023. The night of the bombing of Arasaka Tower. Adam and his soldiers were supposed to retake control of the situation after Johnny and Morgan's groups started raiding the tower and planting their bombs. So Smasher shredded Johnny with an auto shotgun when Silverhand leapt out, half pushed to do so by his worsening cyberpsychosis, in order to buy time for his team to escape. But rather than actually engaging Smasher in a fight, Smasher just one-shotted Johnny, and it was a particularly brutal death, very different from what we see in Engram Johnny's memories. Much of the team, including Rogue and Spider Murphy, managed to escape Arasaka Tower, but only when Shaitan, a fully borged solo, stepped in to hold Smasher back long enough. As strong as Shaitan was, and he is so cool, he couldn't withstand the might of Smasher, who ripped his head off. But this didn't actually kill Shaitan, but it brought him pretty close. He managed to survive this event somehow. Smasher followed the escaping team to the rooftop, where he is said to have held up Shaitan's head, teasing Morgan Blackhand to come and save his fellow solo. And Blackhand did. He jumped off the escaping AV, and finally Smasher got to have the big showdown with arguably the most famous legend in Night City's history. According to a relatively recent interview with Mike Pondsmith, however, Morgan Blackhand did survive the battle/fall of the towers against all odds by using a chunk of Adam Smasher as a shield, which is wild. And apparently by 2077, he's still out there in the world. He's perhaps a bit older looking, still handsome, but all in all, he doesn't look like the kind of guy that you'd look at and expect to be hired to flatline you, which, as Pondsmith says, Blackhand uses to his advantage, so he's still out there doing his thing. But who won on Arasaka Tower? Was it both? Was it neither? Was it Blackhand because he used a piece of Adam Smasher to survive? Well, there's some theories about this, but first, let's talk about Adam Smasher's love life. So what I'm about to talk about exists only in a live Cyberpunk 2020 game involving Mike Pondsmith. They haven't worked this into the timeline yet, confirmed by Pondsmith himself on Reddit, so it could be scrapped in the future, but fuck it, it's too nuts and too funny to not talk about. So sometime in the late 2020s, Michiko Arasaka, Saburo Arasaka's granddaughter, was out on the town. It was her 18th birthday, and she was just full sending it. She'd been living a life under the Arasaka lock and key up until then, so it was time for her to let loose a bit. And while out on the town, she met, of all people, Adam Smasher, which led to a fling, which led to them actually kind of dating. According to Mike Pondsmith himself on Reddit, quote, she actually went after him. It's a long story involving substitute cyber bodies after a near assassination, a really sheltered and naive young Japanese girl who watched too much anime and thought Adam reminded her of Alphonse from FMA, and Adam being shocked that a cute girl would actually be interested in him even if he was borged up. One of these days I'll have to publish the whole thing, although I did do an onstage TTRPG at PeerCon in Poland a while back. The players couldn't decide whether they were amused or terrified. And the other thing too, when it comes to its substitute cyber bodies, Adam Smasher, while out on the town in situations like this, had a Gemini body that was modeled after a young blonde Elvis, voice and all. And yes, this body came fully equipped for certain occasions. Mike Pondsmith also says that, I don't know if it's this specific body that he's referring to or if he has two types of Elvis bodies, but at least one of them was based on Elvis's appearance in the comeback concert of 1968, as pictured here. Hopefully copyright doesn't ding me for this. And this is kind of fucking amazing to picture. Like, what? But Michiko broke up with him and eventually she moved on. But Pondsmith says that this breakup actually hurt Smasher, and it was the last straw for him. humanity was overrated, and he even phased out his more human bodies in favor of more Borgish ones. Imagine being A, alive, and B, being able to say that Adam Smasher is your ex-boyfriend, and C, that you broke his heart. Like, damn. In the Edgerunner's mission kits for the tabletop, it's said that Adam Smasher vanished following the bombing of Arasaka Tower. Or maybe he was actually killed in the blast, and a new Adam Smasher 2.0 was made to replace him. And certainly Soul Killer was around at this time. Imagine that, it's not crazy to consider. If they could clone Adam Smasher's brain and then put it in a machine and then upload his engram to it, there you go. And considering the way Adam Smasher is about death and life and humanity and his body, it likely wouldn't make much of a difference to him, I think. Like, he might be a little miffed that he died in the first place, but New Smasher might be like, old me, what a loser. He'd just shrug and I guess get on with his life. Because I guess the question would be, what difference would it make to someone like him? At any rate, Smasher continued his work for Arasaka, and he actually became the bodyguard of Yorinobu Arasaka. As we are shown through the eyes of terrified Evelyn Parker, this guy has remained relatively consistent in his approach to women.
You look like a cut of fuckable meat, are you?
Otherwise known as Adam Respect Her. But seriously, the first time hearing this line, the first time I played that game, that was definitely a whiplash. To be fair, I've seen worse in my DMs. But this line does have an added level of discomfort to it when you consider his views on meatheads, as he might call Evelyn. Like, I realize this is just one single line and you could just see it as him being, like, particularly vicious and animalistic. But these few words just show how anybody who is not like him is, ironically enough, let's say subhuman. This is how he looks at probably 99% of the people in the cyberpunk world, just as meat. Soft people who make good victims, regardless of who you are. What a line to be introduced to this guy with. It's said that Smasher was the one who dealt with Johnny's body following the fall of Arasaka Tower. According to Grayson, who has become Adam Smasher's sort of right-hand man by 2077, Smasher chucked Johnny's body in the oil fields north of Night City. But this does sort of conflict with some other stuff in the lore, because in the Black Dog story, it's heavily implied that Johnny's body was secretly rescued from the wreckage of Arasaka Tower by Samantha Stevens, a borged-out ex-firefighter and samurai mega-fan. Johnny's body was brought by a bunch of mercs to a woman named Angel at the Los Alamos Labs, and many believe that Angel could be Alt Cunningham reinstalled into a new body. Like, look at her, she looks just like Alt. Like, maybe Grayson was misled about where Johnny's body was. Maybe Adam Smasher lied about it, maybe he lost it. But the one thing we do know that Smasher did, as the wiki says, get most, if not all, the Johnny Silverhand stuff we can get from him in 2077 from Samantha Stevens' garage, as she was terminally ill during the events of Black Dog due to cancer, which actually resulted from all the radiation she got when she went to the ruins of Arasaka Tower to retrieve Johnny's body. Hopefully she had passed away by time Adam Smasher found her garage. It is interesting that Smasher is a little bit of a trophy hunter. He's said to have sold most of the loot and iconic items that were Johnny's, but he did keep the car and he did keep the Malorian, of which V can get from Grayson. So Smasher in 2076 was called into Night City to deal with David Martinez after he got that cyber skeleton. It was a close fight, but ultimately Adam was still able to take David down. He makes a remark about David being a good candidate for a construct, and given how chill he is when he says it, I just think that he himself is a construct and that he is also aware of it. But he just doesn't care about it. He doesn't feel any existential dread whatsoever about him not being the original Smasher. But David has no idea what he's talking about, and then Adam Smasher just kills him. And we all know it's not just David he killed that day.
We're having a moment here! Lock down! Lock down! Lock down!
There's also like a prefab scenario in the Edge Runner's mission kit where you can play as one of a crew of mercenaries who are in charge of getting David Martinez's jacket back from a thief who stole it from Falco. But you see, Arasaka really wants the jacket because the jacket has biomon scanners and monitors and everything that actually recorded David Martinez's biosignature, all the stuff that was going on while he had the Sandy. And depending on how you choose to play this scenario, one of the endings has Atom Smasher come and destroy your party. Like, there's no way to survive. That's what he does. By 2077, Smasher is, of course, present at Konpeki Tower, as he's still Yorinobu's bodyguard. If you scan him, it actually says he's 96% chrome, and it's just imagine that. I guess his spine and his brain would be organic, and his digestive organs, I suppose, if he still has those in this body. The other thing, too, is that when V and Jackie are hiding behind the glass in Yorinobu's suite, like 99% sure Atom Smasher sees them. Like, first of all, just look at him and the way he's standing and where he's facing. I'm pretty sure, too, if you have a certain chip installed, it will register him as an enemy, implying that he sees you. But the fact that he left it alone and said nothing, it's like he was just curious. He's not exactly loyal to the Arasakas. Like, sure, they pay him and they enable his lifestyle. He's not a super hard guy to please in that sense. He's just fine to have his days off, his anime, his snacks, etc., as well as excessive violence. I would also think that they have a kill switch for him too. Like, I doubt they'd let him run around without some sort of insurance policy, but still, he's just like, chaos and carnage, let's see what happens. He's nothing if not consistent. And the way that he just barrels into the Delamain as V and Jackie try to escape, the first time I played this game, that scared the shit out of me. Atom Smasher was then promoted to head of security, and he conducted the questionable security for Saburo's memorial parade, where Hanako was supposed to be the big feature. Was this lapse in security intentional? We see that he was butting heads with Oda, Hanako's bodyguard, about the level of security. It's hard to say what exactly Yorinobu was playing at here because he does love his sister. I do get into this a bit in my Hanako and Yorinobu videos, but it's also funny to think that Smasher is just half-assing the security to see what chaos occurs. Like, I doubt that that's it, but it makes me laugh. But even though Hanako does get kidnapped, Adam does come to grab Hanako back from V and Goro. He's actually really easy to miss in this cutscene before V falls through the floor. So in all but the Phantom Liberty ending, V and or Johnny faces Smasher one last time. If you bring Rogue, there's a particular malice in his final words to her, likely extending from their largely unknown history together. We know Rogue and Smasher did a few gigs for Arasaka together, but Rogue doesn't tell us much about this. We don't find out anything from Atom Smasher, but we do know that Rogue despised him for some deep, deep reasons, and Smasher himself seems to have had a bone to pick with her too. We get a touch more insight into the whatever it is between Rogue and Smasher when we're on the Ebonica and we're looking at all the computers and we're listening to Rogue as we go through the ship kind of looking for Smasher. We ultimately don't find Smasher here, we just find Grayson. But you can find an audio log where Smasher is blackmailing Anthony Gilchrist. You might remember him as the mole from Meredith Stout's Militech quest in the prologue, which makes you wonder what exactly is it that Smasher or maybe Arasaka is hoping to get from Gilchrist and Militech. This definitely opens up some interesting questions. Smasher's basically holding captive a woman named Mallory, who may also be a Militech corpo for all we know. Either way, she means something to Gilchrist, and you can find her body, actually, on the Ebonica, with Smasher's telltale signs of torture and brutality upon her body. Like, Rogue is really tense throughout this mission, and Johnny is noting it. She's ultimately kind of pissed off that this whole mission was for nothing, but that Rogue doesn't seem surprised at all to see what happened to Mallory and everything else we can sort of find. The fact that Smasher is working with Maelstrom. What if Smasher's working with Mr. Blue Eyes and the Blue-Eyed Conspiracy, or maybe he knows something about Lilith, and this is getting into theory territory, but it's the fact that Maelstrom connected to Militech, but also connected to Lilith, also connected to... Oh, here we go. See that I'm saving that for the Lilith Blue-Eyed Conspiracy video. My point with bringing up all the stuff on the Ebunica and Rogue, it's just, I just wish we knew what it was that made them hate each other so much. I don't think it's hard to guess on Rogue's behalf, but on Smasher's, I wonder what Rogue did to piss him off. I would love to read a short story about that someday. If you choose to bring the Aldecaldos with you to the tower, Smasher very gently steps on Saul's head. Rip Saul, daddy of the desert. Should you side with Hanako, at least he doesn't kill Takamura. And if you go alone with just V, well, you're at least just risking yourselves. But in all these endings, Smasher is still like, where's Rogue? Only she'd be stupid enough to pull this off. We can choose to leave him alive and on his knees if we want, or just execute him for Becca, for Rogue, for Saul, for David, for Johnny, everybody he's killed. Or we could just, put a bullet in his head because we just want to put an end to things and don't want him potentially getting up and screwing things over while we're in Mikoshi. But should you bring up Johnny? Smasher is just confused. Maybe he didn't know who was on the relic or who was in V's head, but I don't know if I believe that. I personally am more along the lines of Johnny's version of his death and final fight with Smasher being imagined, a fake memory of his construct. Like, to construct Johnny, that memory is real, but to everybody else, it's like, what? The tabletop version is so different. Morgan Blackhand, as we talked about earlier, was the one who had the final battle with Adam Smasher, not Johnny. So Smasher being like, what? Johnny? That guy? Like, it makes a lot of sense through that lens. He would be like, what? That guy? I just killed him in one shot. Like, Smasher is more hung up on Rogue than he is on Johnny. Let me know what you think of the demented Johnny theory. It's always a fun way of looking at Johnny to be like, wait a minute, so how much of this is just corrupt Johnny files versus what actually happened? Because there's a lot of discrepancies, and it's interesting to kind of like set them all aside each other in like a T-chart. I should do that in a video. That would be a fun video. But either way, that is it. That's all we see of Adam Smasher. Not sure what happens to him in the Phantom Liberty ending. Even if we do kill him, or if he gets killed by someone else, his construct could very well be in Mikoshi if he really is a construct. Which means that Alt may have taken him away, after she does whatever techno-vampire necromancy shit she gets up to in there. And if Alt really is Lilith, like many people theorize, then oh my god, there's some extra, oh shit, big implications here as to what Adam Smasher's part could be in the Blue-Eyed Conspiracy / Lilith Blue-Eyed Conspiracy. Here I go again. And I mean, like, mythologically speaking, Lilith was the first wife of Adam in a number of religions, so I mean, she could take him away. This is like a separate revenge-themed story sort of deal. Maybe it would be Lilith / Alt's revenge on Adam Smasher for killing Johnny the way he did, and blah blah blah, whatever. And I also feel like they wouldn't fully kill Smasher, would they? The Borg, the myth, the nightmare. But ultimately, I can't see Adam really caring, no matter what his state is. He might actually enjoy life beyond the Black Wall, for all we know. As Mike Pondsmith says, he's a high-functioning cyberpsycho, and the fact that he's high-functioning could have to do with the fact that he had pre-existing antisocial tendencies before getting Borged out. Which, from what we've discussed today, yeah, it seems so. But what did we learn about him? He likes anime, and junk food, and murder. And he also might be a construct. So maybe he's not so different from V, after all. You know what? Maybe they want to copy V in the Devil ending so then they can have V as the next Adam Smasher. How about that? Imagine that if they made the Devil ending canon in Orion. V is the new Adam Smasher character, like, ooh. Thank you so much for watching today's video on Adam Smasher. I couldn't help myself after playing Still Wakes the Deep, after, role-playing that game, as if this was the reason why Adam Smasher went full cyber psycho. It was about time I covered this guy anyway. I have to cover Saburo at some point too. There's still a lot I gotta cover. Members, thank you very much for your support of the channel. Members, if you got shot in the chest with a RPG off the 9-story building and landed on the roof of my garbage truck, I would forgive you immediately. I would understand, you can't help it sometimes. Sometimes you just fall off buildings and land on garbage trucks. And of course, thank you to everybody for simply watching, for liking, for commenting and subscribing. It helps the channel out immensely. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again in the next one. Goodbye!